Verbal Peak Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. I'd like to welcome you all to the show. Look, in the studio today, I got my esteemed colleagues. Rock, what's up, Rock?
Hello.
My boy OG Alex, what's up now?
That's going down.
And so look, this is what we doing, right? So first of all, I gotta say that since it's Ramadan, Ramadan Mubarak for everybody that's participating. All right. So look, this is the deal. Over a span of time, right, we've been connected to religion and spirituality. I mean, since the beginning of time, because here we created it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to attempt to show how Islam and Christianity is connected, right? And
Okay.
and it's not gonna take a long time to even do this, right? So when the colonizers, namely Constantine 325 AD, when they got a hold to what the Ethiopians had, the Gnostics, the Coptics, right? They
Right.
started trying to put their own narrative on our stuff, right? That's how you got the Jesus was whites and the angels was all white, but you saying in this region of land, nobody black. You talking about Ethiopia in the Bible, and we're not represented in any form, shape, or fashion, right? So what happened was when after that took place, God, when he chose Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to bring in, it wasn't new. It was the same teachings, but uncorrupted to give back to us. That's why he said 3 generations after me would no longer be of me, because he knew Pan-African more. He knew that over time, eventually in the East, that would become corrupted too. Right? So, what's up, God? Pan-African more.
What's happening?
He knew the East was going to
What's
get
going
corrupted,
on?
right? So now the knowledge is in the West, shining back to the East, right? So we are the custodians of the knowledge in this time, right? Now, melanin is peace because we was created in peace. So anywhere there's melanin, I'm supposed to go and feel at peace. So now if I go somewhere and it's not peace, then that just means that somebody been corrupted. Or somebody done drunk the punch and they got self-hate and they gonna reflect their self-hate onto others, right? So we finna combat all that right here on Verbal Radio. We're gonna start right here, right? So this is King Negus, who famously helped early Muslims by providing them sanctuary in Abyssinia, modern-day Ethiopia. Was named Ashama ibn Abjar, or Ashibin ibn Abjar, often referred to in Arabic sources as al-Najishi. He ruled the Aksumite kingdom in the early 7th century and protected the followers of Prophet Muhammad, right? Now, okay, I'm going to tell you how that story went, though. So what happened was Prophet Muhammad was just getting started to bring Islam forward with the teachings. But the old pale Arabs, right, I call them, they was trying to stop it. So he sent his nephew and followers to Abyssinia, which is Ethiopia, with King Negus, who King Negus protected them, and later on King Negus converted to Islam, right? So let's go. All right, now Negus, right? Negus is a title. Negus is an Ethiopian, it's a Semitic term for king. Historically designated a regional ruler under the Nagast Niggaz, king of kings is what you mean. King of kings. Nagast Niggaz, or emperor in Ethiopia. Derived from the root NGS, right? NGS will be pronounced Negs. So it's just showing you where they getting nigger from, where they converted it from our original state, right? It was used for leaders of major provinces like Goham and Tigray in Islamic tradition. The Negus is known as Al-Nashis, which we said that. Okay, definition: it is a title for a monarch or a king in Ethiopian history. Usage: while it refers to a king, it was often used for provincial governors with the paramount ruler title Negus Nagas. Historical significance: it is rooted in the Aksumite Empire, with historical figures like the Nashis of the 7th century playing a role in early Islamic history. Regional context: the title was used in the Horn of Africa, particularly within the Ethiopian Empire, right? So you seeing how it started for good, right? And so whether you call yourself king of Negus or Nagas, right? It had great meaning, and it had a sense of pride and nobility to it, right? Now we getting into Ethiopia. Y'all gotta you see we got the pyramid, we got Egypt in the background, right? So the name is rooted in ancient Greek, meaning land of burnt faces. Is Ethiopia. It's old and was used historically to describe the region. Its historical roots extended to the kingdom of Aksum, 1st, 7th century CE, and beyond, with a 3,000-year-old history. Abyssinia, derived from Arabic term Habsha. This name was popularized by foreign traders and travelers during the medieval period to refer to the Ethiopian Empire 1270 to 1974. While the region was known by both names, Ethiopia is the ancient indigenous name, while Abyssinia was an external identifier used for several centuries before being dropped in the 20th century, right? We going on. Kabra Nagas is a 14th century Ethiopian Ge'ez text meaning glory of kings. It serves as a national epic detailing the origin of the Solomonic dynasty from King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. It validates the Ethiopian emperor's divine right and the nation's role as a guardian of biblical tradition. Now, this is what they had. They reverted all the way down to nigga. It's a noun. Now they changed the name, right? Back in the day, nigga meant lazy, slothful, and cowardly, right? Is the term they put towards nigga. But look at the synonyms, right? Coon, jigaboo, nigga, nigra, and spade. And they forgot moon cricket, right? wait.
That's a new one on me. I heard that one. Damn.
Oh, y'all ain't watch what's that man, what's the Shaboom doc? Oh, they got oh man. So
learn something new every day.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Good, right? But so you have to understand the mindset of the colonizer. He can't colonize you unless he got your mind or he's controlling the narrative, right?
Right.
So we finna get into it. And then look, Panic more. Remind me before we close out to give the Hindu part of the Nagas and what it details into, right?
All right.
Don't start Rye sister though.
Wow.
That's wild and right. That but man, I don't even know how to drive it because there's so much detail into that, right? So you know how we're gonna know what we finna be visionaries today. Let's put ourselves back in the 1st century, right? We got a term that we call Negus and Nagast, that there was a term of endearment and a term of strength and a term of power, right? How could we, and this for you, right? How could we, or if we could see, or if you could see down the road that this term would be used as a derogatory term, that they would take it and make it such a horrific term, how could you warn the future generations if you saw it happening? How could you warn them not to fall for the okie-doke? Or it might not even be possible.
Well, the youth, it's not the language, because it was a term used for us, but it's how it was taken and weaponized. So that's there lies the problem. So, but even with that said, that's a very good question. That's why, back to this. That's why it was important for us to learn early on about who we were to the best of our ancestors' abilities. You know, whatever they passed on to us. We needed to know all of that. Even let's just say, just imagine, if we go back 40 years ago, 40 years, okay? Perhaps if we would have started being more, if we would have been coming to being better informed, just think about, maybe we could have made an impact by now.
Right, come on, right.
Even though it was, the way the word was utilized, maybe we could have changed things. And perhaps we still can, because a lot of people just don't know the origin. And that's the thing. All words have an origin.
Right.
And so, like I said, perhaps that's something we need to, take in consideration. So people will be more informed if they see that word more. And then we can, send out our own narrative.
Right. Start bringing that energy of back into the person. Now we know the late Reverend Jesse Jackson just passed, right? And he not saying he was criticized, but he said that I am somebody. This for OG Alex, right? So using that context, though, OG Alex, as I am somebody, we want to put a definition to who the somebody is, right?
Right.
Have that information. Who are we as Negus and Nagast to distinguish or separate us from the nigger?
Well, I think, honestly, man, to piggyback off what Rock Conscious was bringing up, I think it does play a big part of knowing your history and digging deeper, because I think there was a time where, if we go back 40 years ago, we all 70s babies, so up in that time, I remember growing up and seeing it was, you wouldn't call nobody the N-word. That's it was no pride taken in it. You know what I mean? It was more on brother and sister, right on and stuff like that. So it was a sense of unity. So they didn't talk about you were this, you were that, or it was more on a defense side. If somebody was to call you this, somebody said that prepared you for that. That's how I grew up. And so, like I said, I don't even use that word like that unless you get out of bounds with me, and the fact that you make me want to use it in the derogatory meaning behind it. If we have to go there, say it like that. But I am somebody, like I said, I always grew up with that sense of knowing that, instilling that into children at a young age, that they are someone and they're not defined by a stereotype or a slur or what someone else, the enemy and anyone against you, define what you are. They have to understand knowledge of self. It's very important. So I would take it even further, on our culture here in America, but our culture just worldwide.
Come on. Now look. So look, Now Pan-African Moor. Now we know that myths, right, was created in the past for the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you was to create a myth, say if you were back in the 7th century, right, and you were to create a myth, could you create one, or how would you create one for today's time if you were present in that time to where they can understand not to fall for the as well?
Well, when I think about a myth, I think about the spiritual systems I became, that I started studying and gaining understanding in when I gained knowledge of self. So even if you're talking about something like Norse mythology with Odin and Thor, and that's still somebody's religion. That's still the Scandinavian people's religion. So our ancestors, they created these myths, these stories, these analogies, these metaphors to explain complicated science and make it so simple that a child could understand it. So they would use things like mother figure, father figure, son is the hero figure. A lot of times to redeem the father, you'll have the love interest, you'll have certain colors, um, purple associated with royalty, red being associated with fire, or with you know, like Superman got the red S on his chest. He wears the red and blue because red is where you start, and blue is it's in the higher chakras. Um, you find, the indigo chakra, which is associated with Horus or Heru, the hero, and so on and so forth. So if I was in the 1st or 7th century, perhaps I would create a system or myth in order to preserve, things that could happen down the line that could move us away from certain traditions. That's and I ended on this, is something that happened in Egypt in Kemet, is that there were prophets that said that they noticed how the leaders were getting younger and younger, and they were moving further and further away from tradition. So they came up with an idea in order to preserve. You always hear, Moors are custodians of the ancient knowledge, of the ancient wisdom. And so, they saw that the trend was going away from tradition. So they went from oral traditions to starting to write metaneta, hieroglyphics on the wall, giving oral lessons to other groups of people in order to preserve the information, because once they started writing it down, they were on the decline by that time, because originally it was oral tradition versus having to put it down. So, myths are one way that you can preserve ancient traditions and science and symbology through the mythology.
Oh man, what's it? Now, what I'm understanding is I don't care what text you read, the creator as a state has a group of people that they consider to be his chosen. Or you have a group of people who may become downtrodden, enslaved, disrespected, right? That the creator has his hand or favor on, right? So you will see throughout history, whenever people is in such condition, he always sends somebody with a revelation to raise them up in each period of time. 2000, 2000, 2000. You'll get Abraham, you get Moses, you get Jesus, you get Prophet Muhammad. Now, this Black History Month, right? This is look what. Wait, let me say this though. This is Black History Month, and in Black History Month, you got Black History Month, you got Ramadan, and now just this morning, Trump sent submarines, aircraft carriers into Iran. He getting ready for war, right? out of all the months he could have picked, right? So he letting you know his thing is building up, right? But now the people and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. And this is not where we get into Pan-Africanism. The people, whether they came here on slave ships or whether they came here on boats like Mansa Musa, who some said later became Montezuma, right? They brought knowledge and tradition with them, because one thing we have to understand is in those days, knowledge, reading, writing, knowledge, math, analytical thinking was treasured. So when you would travel from a place to place, just like with Ibn Said, I believe it, and if I'm wrong, those that's listening, y'all correct me, who memorized the Quran by heart and wrote it down, because that was how important knowledge was, right? So when you have these groups coming from different areas of the globe, of the planet, right, and they bring in their knowledge and their perspective and their narrative and their demeanor in learning and understanding, right?
Right.
So when we all came at this focal point, what we call the Americas, right? In America, you got Moors coming out of Portugal and Spain. You got West Africa. You got East Africa. You got the Caribbeans. You got the black natives that was already here, right? All of us had a body of knowledge, right? So we all sitting right here in this thing you call America, right? Now, we need something to bind us together. We need a binding agent, right? A binding agent. So if you notice, majority of the ones who came to bring knowledge, they were bringing predominantly that's coming from the East to the West. They was bringing Islam, or they were bringing a form of Hebrew Israelite, or they was practicing the old Christian tradition ways before the colonizer gathered them on a plantation and told them what to teach and his way to make better slaves, right? So here we are, 2026, right? With a new mindset, because what he used to be able to put on us is not working no more. So now he's trying to go through the food source. He's, trying to go through medicine. He's going through vaccinations. He trying, because he's saying, man, I put crack. They beat the crack. I put guns. They starting to overcome the gun era. I put whatever he threw at us is not sticking, right? So now he's at a crossroad, because he's saying, damn, what I'm gonna do next, right? I'm seeing I'm seeing more people fighting against FBA, right, than I've seen before, because it's not strong enough. People are saying, wait a minute, now we uniting because the situation calls for it. I mean, think about it. And now, and we can get into it, but now this is just hypothetically speaking, right? But think about it. If something was to go down and we would have to rebuild and start all over again, right? We would need to have to find a way to communicate, connect, to do business with people in different regions. The worst thing we can do is be infighting, because people hold grudges. Oh man, I remember when you called me this, I'm not finna trade with you. Or I remember when y'all said this, I'm not, meaning we gotta find a way to bring the peace today. We can't wait for tomorrow, because tomorrow it may be too late, right? So now, check this out. And I'm gonna start with you, Pan African World, right? And because I don't want to get, this is the thing. I want, even though it's called Islam, but I don't want Islam to be like in a box where it's just for, because it means peace. Muslim, one who submits their will to do the will of God. So that's anybody. So we should be able to operate within the title, within the construct of the foundation of what it was supposed to be about, right? But my question is, I'm seeing Philadelphia. I mean, got a strong. I mean, they shut down parts of Philly for Ramadan every year, right?
Mm.
You got New York. You got Mecca up in New York, 5% nation. You got the NOI everywhere, right? I mean, I have all the way through Europe. Is there a way that you see that we can put aside petty differences and really focus on uniting, but not for ourselves, but for future generations? I mean, can we sacrifice our own ideologies, our own grudges, to put them aside for future generations, or are we just so stuck in our ways that, like Pac said, there's no hope for the future?
Mm.
Are you talking about in America or
I mean,
worldwide?
I mean worldwide. I mean world, from Africa to the Caribbean to the Americas to South and Central America, in Europe.
So yeah, it could definitely happen. I think that maybe there's different forms of incentive depending on what region you're talking about. We've spoken at length on the identity issue over here being, arguably the primary source of black people. Now it seems almost going backwards. Whenever I look at places like Nigeria, one of their number one problems is they got a leadership problem. They got a president over there who is, he's not an ethno nationalist. He's not a pan Africanist. He's not for, they actually sent some fighter jets to go bomb on Benin when the military was actually attempting a coup in Benin. And France went in and called Nigeria to handle that. And so they sent some fire jets and they bombed the broadcast place of business where the military that was attempting the coup was broadcasting from, and they bombed the military barracks, in order to thwart the coup. That was Nigeria. That was African on African, situation right there via favor done by President Macron of France, who has a very close relationship with the president of Nigeria, President Tinubu. So he travels to France a lot. So, different regions, different solutions. Me being on the outside looking into Nigeria, I think that if I just look at the rest of Africa, that it helps a lot when the people, they have protests as opposed to over here, because over here when the protest happens, it doesn't lead to anything. It doesn't. You might get a mural, you know, for the most part at best, but over there when they have protests, something totally different happens. When they have protests over there, what'll happen is the military will have more backup, if you will, in order to go ahead and pull off that coup. When the attempted coup happened in Benin, one of the first things that I saw when he got on that public broadcast is he said, "Hey, we need the people's support. We need y'all to come out to the street and support us." So the thing that makes places like Burkina Faso so powerful, besides their alliance with Mali and Niger, with Assimi Goita and President Chiani, is that they have the support of the people. Anytime the last assassination attempt that they had on President Traore in Burkina Faso, when it failed, all the citizens came in the street and celebrated. They protect the president with their lives. If you go and you look at any of the documentaries in Burkina Faso, so, different remedies for different places. So my suggestion for Nigeria is that the people, they need to take it into their own hands, and they need to, galvanize in order to have a regime change. I don't want to say too much, but y'all get my drift, and also wanted to mention one more thing about going back to the whole nigga thing, is that it reminded me of in Poland, they call the quote unquote black people Morzine, Murzyn. And if you look up Morzine in Poland, you'll find that you'll have people holding up signs and protests that they don't want to be referred to as Morzine. Now, when you look up the term Morzine, you'll find out that it means more. More, Moor, is just the English transliteration. Morzine is just the Polish version of the same group of people. These people that descend from Northwest Africa, Kush, etc. You know, so it's interesting how a term that that has so much value over here in America, in Poland, they're actually trying to get rid of it because they look at it like, well, this identity that we're under, the government that they're under, they persecute the people. So they don't want to, they look at the term as not a term of endearment, but they look at it as the same way we look at Negro. You know, Negro, Obama removed Negro when he was in office. And even though the term Negro, Black, and African American from a legal standpoint mean exactly the same thing. So if you were to go into a court case and use the term Negro, which I have, you know, in my last court order that I got signed, I used the term Negro in particular in the Negro law of South Carolina in order to show a connection between the ancient Berbers and the term Negro, and to further prove that I was a Moor, because Berber and Negro are synonymous terms based on the Negro law of South Carolina via the Negro Act of 1740 in South Carolina. So I understand the advantages of using a pre-colonial identity from several different angles, but the people who are the Morzine in Poland, they don't understand that they could weaponize that name that they're under. But because they have been persecuted under those terms, they now hate the term the same way that we hated Negro, because we looked at it as an old colonial term, you know, and even, you know, so it's just interesting, you know, Negro, the way that it's applied over here legally is one thing, but I understand that if we were able to create a bridge between us and the Moors in Poland, even under their Morzine identity, that we could show them how they could use that to their advantage for their history, their historical continuity, for their persecution from a legal, from an international law standpoint, etc. So I'm just saying that to say that, you know, these terms, yes, there is, you know, they're used against us, but, you know, we can take these terms back and weaponize it if we understand the history behind it, understand the science, and we have enough references to be able to explain it in a way to make it make sense.
Yeah, but this might be a problem though. This is the only problem I could see, is that when he started traveling from Europe into Africa and he started learning what Negus and Nagast, what it represented, we all know by his history, anything that was positive and beneficial for us, he had to turn it into a negative, right? So we gotta understand, how did he? So he had to create a character, and like you said, make that term become derogative, and use the nigger. So is Negro and nigger the same definitions, or is two different words? Because he created that nigger word to mean something horrific, something demeaning, right? And then he created, and then check it out. But then he created some attributes to go along with the word, meaning he said that he created the situation to where you had to go steal. He created the situation where you would backbite. He created the situation to where you would see your brother and want to kill your own brother, and he called that nigger. But he created the stage for it, right? And then said, okay, bro.
well,
the other day, right? He said, look, man, this for my niggas, not black folks, but this for my niggas, right? Now hold on. We've been arguing this, man, for years, right? Black folks say, even what's it, the last poets, the lost poets, the
Last poet.
last poets was like, die, nigga, die, so black folks can take over, right? Right? So wait. And look, the reason why I'm saying this, right? Because we don't have to be following stars no more. We was way up here with the niggas and the Nagast, right? And we failed. But we got to stop the file. We got to break the file somewhere and start working our way back up, is what I'm saying, right? So,
Right.
so we gonna roll. But so OGS.
Mm-hmm.
On that way of breaking this file and building ourselves back up to where we once was again, is that possible? Or put it like this, or are we admitting defeat? Are we saying, hey man, look here, white folks, what y'all put on us was so strong, man, look bro, we killing each other in the streets, we don't know how to come out the trap that y'all trapped us in.
Right. I think it's possible. Well, I know it's possible because what goes up must come down. What goes down must go up. You know, in the same mentality of that. By us falling so far down, I think so many of us want to be back up where we belong that we're willing to get there in these times because I think our generation has seen the worst of the worst. You know, I know we wasn't there, but what we did see from what we was here, and we know who we don't want to be, and we can see that it's going down even further and further and further and further down, degrading ourselves and doing things like that. I think it is possible for us to overcome a lot of self-hate. I think that it plays a big part in when you don't love yourself and you hate everything about you, you know, your mindset, you know, it has to be repaired in order for you to rise up. You know, I think we've always mentioned that, you know, we got to work on self, but that has to, the only way I see it, even through with this technology, we can communicate, we can get more information, we can learn, we can educate ourselves. But if at the end of the day, if you still hate who you are through the eyes of someone else that hates you, you know, you've been programmed to think a certain way and feel a certain way about yourself. I think you can't rise until you repair that part of your life as on the individual level.
Right. Yeah. Fact. No, right.
You know, I think we can do it. I really do. And I want to piggyback on one of the words. You know, this is what I was thinking, man. I could be wrong, but you know, when I look at the information you sent me and it was breaking down the different words and the meanings of them, and think about it like this. You know, English is one way. Then when you have a translation of a word and you have different dialects, how I pronounce it, you may pronounce it a little bit different, regional, different ways. So in a sense, when people were pronouncing things, and I think there was a time when we did address each other, calling each other kings and stuff because we were and those things. And I think that ticked them off so bad that they had to try to change it around to make it seem bad, because we probably did address each other like that before, right. But it didn't mean what they hadn't created what it meant yet. Right. But it was so bad to them that they felt they got to slur it. Right. Because we probably empowered ourselves, or we walked around with a sense of pride, because that's from a cultural standpoint, it didn't have anything to do with your skin color. It was your bloodline, you know. You see what I'm saying? So I think when they saw that and the unity was with that, they felt, I got to tear that down, because I can't have them feeling this self-pride about themselves, you know. So let me figure out a way to, you know, degrade that, you know. And so what's the closest way of saying something? And you know how you can make up something and you say something and it's kind of close to it, and it doesn't mean the same thing, like an inside joke on stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I think that's what they were trying to do. Like, we'll keep it, have them saying it. We can't stop them from saying it, but let's put our own spin on it. So, and instead of them calling themselves or having some sense of pride about using that word, we're going to go ahead and, you know, make it bad. So then that way it's seen in a bad light, and it may not have anything to do with it, because that IG and NG, you know, it's vowels and syllables, how you pronounce things. You know, so they speaking broken English coming from a country where, you know what I'm saying, they didn't have all of that.
Right.
You know, I don't know.
Trust me, bro. They knew,
it's deep.
We were so comfortable using NGs and N sounds, and before J's was in the language, that they knew it's natural. It's better than our subconscious. But they knew how to surgically go in there and turn it to a derogatory, you know. But this is the thing that gets me, and this for rock conscious, right? I don't care what generation you from, right? You will always see, and it's been passed down for years and years, generations. Everybody heard it. Crabs in the bucket, or some say crabs in the barrel, right?
Right.
How do we stop passing that down to generations and stop fitting that narrative of crabs in the bucket? How can we end that? How can we end it? And the reason being is because it's time out. If you look at the moves that this government is making around the world, certain changes and certain mindsets have to be changed, and we don't have a lot of time to do it. So what we're doing today on this show, we giving solutions to make you think and understand that you need to think differently or in a strategic type manner to prepare yourself for what's getting ready to go down. So how can we send a shock to the brain to get out that crab in the bucket mentality and stop passing down those words? Because words got power. Words have power, and words are spells.
That's true. Words and behavior. Changing a behavior is a start. Meaning that if anything looks like that. But of course, if we stop saying the word, because some things are just so outdated, like come with something new.
You know what?
But I have a question for Pan African More. Why don't you, be so kind and tell us the history of the niggas and all of that, and the origin of those words.
Okay, well, I could say a little bit about it. One of the oldest, if not the oldest, origin of the term nigga is from the Sanskrit language, it comes from Naga, which that's still the NG. We know the vowels are interchangeable. You could drop the vowels. And Naga is the serpent. And the serpent is what we've discussed before, is the same serpent that you see on the medical symbol, where you see that wing staff and you see the serpent circling around that particular staff. And you see that same serpent, which I think is actually a king cobra, in the headdress of the pharaohs when you look up at the pictures of the pharaohs. And in India, where they used the Sanskrit language, or at least one of the places they used it, that term Naga and that serpent represented Kundalini energy. And Kundalini energy it's a concept that represents a concentration of energy from the base of your spine to the top of your head. In particular, that soft spot, when babies are born, there's a soft spot on their head, and that would be the location of what in Hinduism they call the crown chakra. And at the base of the spine, they would call that the root chakra or the Muladhara. And so you will see in this diagram of these chakras, when you Google it, you'll see a snake traveling up these 7 chakras from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And so this would represent this concentration of energy, if you will, in different aspects of the mind from one angle. And it was, so let's just say if my Kundalini energy was concentrated right now in my throat chakra, then I would be centered in maximizing the potential of what I'm saying orally right now. And Kundalini is actually, it's one of those studies that it was so much to it. It was a study that I felt like it was endless amount of information. And I'm still even wrapping my mind around all of the various different angles of it, because to me, it was even more dynamic and even had more details to try to figure out than studying melanin, carbon, studying Europeans and their origins, studying Kemet. Like Kundalini was in that serpent energy. It's a vast study. There's a lot of books on it. I would say the best place is just start with Hinduism and start with Kundalini energy. And so that word Naga, that serpent, is detailed as a fire serpent. So it represents fire. And, me being a student of OG Bobby Hemmett and Brother Panic, peace be upon him, they went very deep into breaking down the origin of the term nigga. Nigger being when you talk about the slur coming from Europeans, because there's two things when it comes to words, is that you have the vibration of the word itself, and then you have the intent behind it. I like to say it's like 50-50. So the intent behind the word is just as important of the actual vibration of the word itself. And those two different aspects carry two different energies. So, Brother Panic or OG Bobby, they used to say that saying the word nigger, it being a symbol of fire, that it was heating up the planet. And they went on to say, well, why is it that Europeans are now trying to get rid of the word? So they went through a whole thing in Hollywood where there was this whole thing to try to ban the word, where they were trying to get rid of it. They were trying to, and still to this day, they still, come out and try to, say that it's something that they shouldn't, that people shouldn't be using, even though it might be under the guise of them saying that, well, if we're not able to use it, then y'all shouldn't be using it either. But it's deeper than that, because if you know the power of words and the vibration, the principle of vibration of words, that every time you say something, that it carries a vibration that has a principle and cause and effect, an effect that comes from it, that there's not one word that you could say out your mouth that doesn't have a cause and effect relationship with the reality around you. Every single word that you think of and every single word that you say has a cause and effect on the reality around you, and so, the term, I get it. Me being, who I am, me personally, I'm an occultist, so it's not an emotional thing for me, but I can also separate intent from just utilizing the word itself. If somebody is calling somebody anything, if there's ill intent behind it, then you have to pimp accordingly, so to speak. You have to deal with that based on the intent, because somebody could call you anything and they could have ill intent behind it, and it would give reason to take offense to it. So nigga just has to be, it just so happened to be a historical word that was utilized in slavery, and that's the reason why we hate it so much, even though Negro is literally the same word. It's just another version of the same word. It carries the same vibration, and there was a time where we preferred the word Negro over the term black. Now we're prefer black. It has even gone to some people that are calling themselves Black Americans. So these things change as time goes. We could have originally been using it as a regular term to refer to certain titles of nobility, and then it was, so it goes through the phases, and you just have to, knowing the history behind it and then even furthermore, understanding the science behind it, I think that we can make better educated decisions on how we want to deal with the word, whether we want to utilize it or not. But I think the understanding of it is more important than our emotions and how we feel about it, because whether we say it or not, it's not going to change the mindset of our people in America. Our problems are way deeper and way more to deal with. Um, our lack of understanding, our lack of unity, and our lack of, well, let's just say, well, when I say understanding, it also includes uh, all forms of information and our lack of unity. So I just ended on that. That's my stance on that.
Nah, bro, look, you prove that it's not him, it's us. It's not the colonizer, it's us. Because everything that he tried to do, we overcame it. He thought he could break us by breaking a term that was dear to us that we've been using for centuries. So but over time, we overcame that, right? So we breaking the spells, everything, but the one thing that we haven't been able to break, and and this is on a mathematical way of coming to a solution versus out of emotions, as you stated, because it's a need to break the cycle. So instead of us just going around the bend, right, trying to find different ways and different solutions, because there was a period of time for that, to where this person had an idea, that person had an idea, everybody threw their idea in the ring, and couldn't solve and fix the problem. They couldn't put the pieces back together again, right? Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, he still broke, right? So now we coming to a point to where we're saying, okay, look, maybe the circumstances might create the solution. Maybe things have to get to a specific state of being in order to be, or it might don't even need to be. We don't know, but we do know a couple of things. We know that for trying to speak different languages, Tower of Babel destroyed. That's in history. For trying to speak one dialect, the moon blew off from the earth, the planet. Dumped all this water back on the planet. I think we went 50 million miles in the sky. And I got to go back and I'll put that on the poster the exact distance that the moon is from the earth, right? But I'm saying, wow. Circumstances, situations, and time now is going to think for us, because we had a time to do it as beings with intelligent minds, right? We all got brains. We able to use more than 7% and 1/8 ounce of our brain, So now what? Now are we chasing times and circumstances? We have to react to what's in front of us, and we're not the ones implementing the action. We the ones that are reacting to somebody else's actions when we was the Nagast and the Niggaz. So the whole thing is it time for us to lead, or are we gonna let somebody we know don't have our best interests at heart lead us? It's don't make sense. As a rational thinking being, this does not make sense. I don't even know how it happened. I guess that's why I ask so many questions. I don't even know how we got to this state. I don't even know what is it that we did wrong.
Everyone does not have your mindset or my mindset, and that's a great part of it. And then just think about how many people that don't really care to learn. So they're very uninformed.
Right.
And that's a major, major problem.
Oh, he loved uninformed people. He eat
Right.
them
So
like
the
lunch.
more we learn, it's important. And again, like I said, it's our responsibility. Now we know so more than anything. We know based on all this Epstein stuff, how our education, we already knew it was carefully orchestrated, but now it's really, I mean, it's just been sealed because now we know the names of the book, the publishers, and who's behind the publishing. So I mean, that's it. That's over with, right?
Right.
So we know that. Because we know that, that's even more of a reason for people to make sure that they give them their children, the ones who they're in the public sector of education, to make sure they give them that knowledge when they get home. Parents have to do it because, for one, that was something we should have known from the beginning about us, our bodies, and all that stuff. Because we would have got the math, the science, we would have got the spelling, all of that, all, and learned about our bodies and learned how to respect our bodies and how it functions and all of that. So again, it's very important. So it's so much to be discussed. I mean, it is so much.
Yeah. So as we close this thing out, though, okay, G. Alex, I know everybody here, man, we live in the last days, even though we can't predict the time. I can't ask this question.
Last of the first of the last of the beginning of something new.
The last of the beginning of something new.
Come on, I like that.
Can you prepare yourself for it, or do you just go in it? Hey, it is what it is. Let's ride.
No, you can prepare yourself. You can prepare yourself. I definitely think you can prepare yourself because all the tools and resources are more available to everybody now. And to me, I look at it like going forward, you know, for younger generations, like that's what I like about shows like we're putting together now. We are laying down tools for them and gems and jewels for them to realize that you have to understand where you are, what's going on 24/7, but all the resources are available for you to empower yourself. And then once you feel that you've empowered yourself, then you can be amongst like minds and come together. So by us being able to communicate like we're doing right now, we're in different parts of the city, different states, but we're still coming together because there is an issue. There is, you know, more and more time to speak about everything that we're talking about in the show. So I do feel we can do it. I say you can't throw in the towel, you know what I mean? So if you're going to throw in the towel, you might well don't even start, you know? So I do think we can do it. I think one of the things about the information that we do have out there, I think we need to start to have a system of kind of filtering through what's fact, you know what I mean? Doing a little research on the authors behind a lot of things, you know what I mean? Understanding how, you know, because some people just put things out for money, you know, but they don't really have your best interest involved in it. So I think having that brought into the fold about that, doing away with a lot of traditions that we know that we've seen over time that it hasn't benefited, you know, but some things people gonna stick with and they don't have to. I think, but we can do it. I'm for it, and I like that we're doing this on this platform to bring it to people that, hey, there is information out there if you're seeking it, and you should want to for self-empowerment. But I do think we can do it.
Okay, so now I'm gonna piggyback on what OG Alex said about empowerment. So, Pan African More, do we need our own land and own, whether it's tribal force or security force, whatever, in order to make that a reality? Or can we do it in the confines of this system? Because whenever they say we're gonna shut the government down, we like, damn, we didn't do nothing to nobody. What you know, what's going on?
Of course you gotta have your own. I mean, don't they have a sovereign corporation? I mean, that's how they're able to do what they do. I mean, if you don't have your own, you ain't got nothing. I mean, staying up under the thumb of a group of people who created a system where they have to stand on top of other groups of people in order for them to be in this position that they're in. I mean, how can the people, and our people in particular, how can we really think that we're going to be able to progress while still being up under the jurisdiction of colonialists? And they have a system in particular when you study their law and their legal system where they have all the cards stacked against us, you
Right.
know, and our people are largely unaware of the law and legalese. So, you know, they wouldn't know what's happening to them because they don't study. They don't have law dictionaries that they're studying, reading the text and learning the definitions and case law and international law and indigenous rights and privileges and how to utilize religion, you know, to our advantage and so on and so forth. We're not taught that. It should be stuff we learned in elementary school. So yeah, you have to be sovereign in order. That's the first step. In order to have real power with the resource, you got to have sovereignty. Because as long as you're up under somebody else's thumb, they're just going to utilize anything that you attain to their advantage. And that's exactly what. So our spending power don't mean nothing because it goes straight out of our hands into other groups. So it don't matter us bragging that we're the richest black people on the planet if we have no sovereignty. You know,
Right.
so yeah, you know. And oh, one more thing, just side note, is that just you know that story about the serpent in the garden with the fruit and
Right.
the serpent being having that quote unquote negative connotation on it. Yeah, it's all to demonize that Naga energy, that Kundalini energy, that serpent in the crown of those pharaohs in Kemet and Egypt. You know, it's all connected. It's all the same thing. So we don't want to miss that either. That this campaign to get rid of the word nigger that Europeans out of the blue embarked on in the latter years is the same campaign of them trying to demonize through Catholicism and Christianity the serpent being the devil, which we know that the devil or the black devil that they depicted in their old ancient paintings that were next to Roman Catholic Saint Nick, Kris Kringle, Santa Claus, that the devil is nothing but a synonymous figure for Black Pete the Moor.
Yeah.
That's why Black Pete the Moor is stuffing the children in the bag. Then you see the picture of the devil stuffing the children in the bag, and they're both standing by what looks like a pope, but it's Saint Nick, Kris Kringle, whatever name, you know, all the same people, you know. So we want to keep that in mind that you know, if you don't understand this about history, then certain things will just go over your head, and you won't be able to peep game because they don't do nothing for nothing. You know, you don't demonize a word for nothing as a corporation, as a company, as a country, or as a a colonial group of powers or European powers. That's not random. That's not a coincidence. That's science. They
Right.
understand words. They understand the power words. They understand definitions. They understand repetition. They understand symbolism. They understand the cross was a powerful symbol. That was an ancient symbol that is actually a constellation called the Southern Crooks constellation, where they took that symbol and they used it against us. Same way they used the word nigger against us. Same way they used the word black against us. So on and so forth. Same way they used Morzine against the people in Poland. You know, it's the same story rehashed, retold, refried beans. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Now I'm not hating, right? But I don't blame him. Reason being is he got six. Look, we gave him 6,000 years to rule, right? He don't want to give up his time, so he gonna do everything in his power to stay here longer, right? So that is self-preservation. I the fact that it's against us though, and if you look at these uh, Egyptian statues, which represent what you were saying though, Brother Pan African Moore, of the how the headdress and the snake figures coming up out of there, that is a study, right? Because Kemet, the first study out of Kemet was the study of melanin, and it became chemistry, and that was the study, and then we branched on because, and I'm thinking I could be wrong, it's because think about it. We right. We here in Egypt, and we looking up under these stars, right? Now we wasn't bombarded. Then this is a time before the Caucasian was even on the planet. We wasn't bombarded with a lot of negativity, so we had time to create and expound and study everything on this planet. And we knew everything and to build because this was our planet. And we knew the ins and outs. We knew everything pertaining to this planet that they call Earth, right? Or Asia, whatever term you want to give it. We knew all the ins and outs of it, right? So, yeah. Of course, what they call Johnny Come Lately or the colonizer. Of course, he's going to come and say, well, how can I compete when they got everything and know everything? I'm going to have to start pulling down. What do you love? I got to pull that down. I don't hate the game. I mean, I don't hate the player. I hate the game. Like they said, I don't hate the player, hate the game. Because it's something we did that took us off our so-called square. That's the next thing that we have to talk about on the show. What did we do to take our eye off the prize and allow this enemy to sneak up on us? Right? So that's another study within itself. Once we pinpoint, so we investigating this thing, right? That's how we are investigative journalists. And as we investigate this thing and we pinpoint what took place, the next generation gonna thank us. They're gonna be talking about us for hundreds of years from now. Watch what I tell you, because we getting ready to pinpoint and leave them something that they can stand on, and then they can take that information further on down the line in their studies, right? But it got to start somewhere, though, bro. It got to, and it's gonna start with us. We finna discover and uncover this thing, right here. We gonna what happened, bro? Cause something happened. But the thing about it is we tapping into Rock Conscious, Akashic Records. We taking the Pan African War Akashic Records. We taking the OG Alex Akashic Records and my Akashic Records. We finna go way back through that bloodline, like brother said, from our ancestors. I mean, because Dharma Elijah Muhammad said we can go back 76 trillion years. Well, listen, we can go, let's get back to one. Let's get back to about 2 million. Let's get back, let's go back and then pull it forward, right? Because that ain't been done before. We finna go back and bring some stuff and bring it back in this time period, in this time zone, or this dispensation of time.
Hey, not to cut your wisdom, can I say one more thing?
Yes, sir, Broadways.
Okay, last thing. Since I brought up the serpent, the tree of life. The tree of life is from, if you study Kabbalah, they call it the Kabbalistic tree of life. And on this tree, there are fruits, and they call them sephiras, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. So this fruit that came from the tree of life in Genesis in the Bible story is, when you study Judaism and you study Kabbalism, these fruits that are known as sephiras represent knowledge. So the serpent in the Bible story said that if you partake of this fruit, and I'm paraphrasing, then ye shall be as gods. So what the serpent actually came in the form of wisdom. It came in the form of knowledge. Now, in Palamaambe, which is also known as one of the, it's called Las Reglas de Congo. And under the rules of the Congo, you have Palamaambe, Palamante, Kumbanda in Brazil, so on and so forth. In Palamaambe, they have the symbol of the serpent represents direction. So it'll show up in the form of an arrow pointing in several different directions. You'll see the serpent used in a lot of their signatures and their spirit signatures. You'll see the serpent shown over and over and over again. What the serpent represents is vibration. So the serpent moves like this. So the principle of vibration is everything moves, everything is in constant motion, even if it appears to be sitting still. right? Everything moves, everything has a vibration. Vibrations go up and down. You know, when you look at music scales, the music vibrations that go up and down, you know, even when you're talking about that medical symbol, when you have that serpent going around that medical symbol, that serpent, when you study it, you'll see it going up and down. You'll see a second serpent, which represents masculine energy. The first one represents feminine energy, and you'll see them intertwined, representing balance. But it's showing that when the serpent is going upwards, it's saying that it's traveling to a higher vibration. When it's traveling downwards, they're talking about lower vibrations, more into your animalistic nature versus your higher consciousness nature as it travels upward. So I just wanted to put that on the record that the reason why that serpent, one of the reasons why it's so important in our understanding is that that symbol shows up to represent vibration, and it represent rhythm, and the rhythm going up and down. The measure of the speed of the rhythm going up determines the measure of the speed of the rhythm going down. You know, so I just wanted to add that to the discussion.
Those of us in music and those of us that understands energy, we can visualize and see exactly what you're talking about. So
Right.
yeah, that was a powerful point. It's so heavy. We might have to do a part two because now we might have to get into when Jesus said, "All of ye are God's children of the Most High God." We might have to go deep and break that down. But we on course though. We'll get to that one, right? We'll get to that. We got to get to that one right after we get to right after we start pinpointing our. You know how when you look in the mirror and you see yourself, we're gonna start pinpointing our role into this thing, right? Because now we're not babies anymore. You know, when you was a baby, you couldn't give a baby meat, but now that you becoming older, you can start giving them different things. So in this next stage, we definitely have to break down, and now we have to be accountable and be responsible for our actions now, because we know what the enemy done.
Right.
So now we're gonna look at us. We can put that mirror in our face, and it's gonna be hard, right? But it has to be done, though. It got to be done. Man, I appreciate that. Was powerful, though, bro. Very powerful. But look,
Yes.
until next time, and as again, Ramadan Mubarak for everybody that's participating. I got like 30 seconds left before I hit the floor. I'm hungry. Look, we out. But I do want to say this though.
It's time to break your fast, man. You're gonna break your fast, man. You're gonna.
Oh, after going through so much, bro, and you take the time out to sacrifice, things just start coming a little clearer. It's like, okay,
It's worth it. It's worth it.
That perspective, boy. Look, boy, when I come out of this, bro, oh man, boy, look here, boy, it's gonna be on.
See, that's why you're supposed to do it more.
Right, but
that's
you know
why.
what? But look, I'm so hard headed though, Pebbles. Right?
To recharge.
But I'm so hard headed till something got to make me do it. That's why I be so glad for Ramadan, because it makes me settle down and look inwardly, right? If not, I guess something I have to overcome. If not, I'm still out there wilding out, right? Sometimes I can't self-check myself. I need something to help check me. That's why men haven't helped me. You know what I mean? Self-check. But I'm getting to a point to where, especially as I get older, it's like, okay, like you said, Pebble, it's time out for all of that. Let's play it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I appreciate all of you all, because I learned a lot about myself. You know, discussing with people that I consider comrades.
Right. Right.
I'm learning about me. Yeah, I appreciate y'all. I just don't know, man. It's a wonderful thing. Look, we out. They're gonna give me a piece of bread.
Get you some dates, man. Get you some dates, man. With the food in the desert, man. Get you some more dates.
And definitely. I need to go give me some dates, some dates. I'm doing that tomorrow. Dates tomorrow. Verbal Prick Radio, we're out.